information floating around, and it's like the more you try to share real information with people, the more resistance you get. And
Yep.
it's like you either want to do it right or don't do it at all.
Right. Exactly. That's why I said, you know what? If you're not gonna like me, you're not gonna like me. But one thing's for sure, I'm not gonna give you information that is absolutely wrong.
But I think, but see, that goes back to this. We have 5 minutes until we officially start. But you know what? Since I've built this as the secret conversation, it's okay if they join and we already in conversation, as far as I'm concerned. So,
Can y'all see me?
say what?
Can you see me?
No, I just
Can
see
you
your
see
name.
me? Uh, where am I? Oh, go ahead. Here I go. Here I
Okay, Ty going to be
I'm sorry, y'all.
entertainment
Y'all know.
today.
Y'all
Um,
know. Pray
I
for
would
me.
just say, I think what it is we operate in. I don't want to say people don't have integrity, but I think a lot of times people are operating in ego and don't realize it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I did a post a couple of days ago or last week sometime where I said, when you get offended by something somebody says, or when you feel this need to do a tit for tat over everything, you got to check your motivation.
Right.
Because
Right.
a lot of times, because I've had to check myself, okay, is it that they wrong or is it that my ego is involved? And I
Hmm.
always talk to myself. And then sometimes I'll do it anyway, but like, you know what, that was ego, but that's okay.
Yep.
I would just let it stay there. But I think especially when you bumping up against there's the first of all, I don't like this you're an expert because you read a book mentality that is being permeated in the market. I don't like that. That's
Yep.
where people are becoming, disgruntled. I hired a coach and they didn't tell me anything, and the coaching industry is full of frauds. No, what happened was you got the glad glads and you hired somebody and you didn't listen to what they were saying, or you went with the low cost spread because you were being cheap, and
Mhm.
now you're mad because you got played and you're wasting your money.
Well, you know what? I was actually going to bring up this whole LPTA and how the federal government uses this thing called low price technically acceptable,
Mm-hmm.
how what results they've gotten. And it seems like we're trying to apply that same principle in the market for building your businesses. And if you don't know, there's documented evidence on going with the lowest price, and the one who says they're technically acceptable has cost the government billions of dollars in
Yes.
failure because they realize that going with the lowest price will not give you the best results. And that's what people are trying to do and trying to establish their businesses and wanting to go after federal contracts. It just does not work.
And the sad part about it is, I remember when I was fortunate in that when I went into compliance, at General Dynamics.
Mm,
And I was, now granted, I was the youngest person in the room, as being, and I was the only newbie in the room. So I'm in a room with people like my VP used to be VP at Lockheed back in the day before he retired and then came out of retirement to go back to work. And so the people that like groomed me, all I was sitting in a room with 200 years of government contracting experience.
exactly.
So I got to listen, and I learned to listen. Shut up when you in the room with experts. Pull out
Exactly.
your pen and paper and shut up and take notes. That's what you do.
Right. Right. Exactly.
So when
Exactly.
I was listening to them, and they all talked about how um, when they came up with this lowest cost, technically acceptable nonsense, the whole industry pushed back on the government and said, hey, you're not going to get the results that you're looking for with that.
Right.
But
Right.
the government was so sure if they went with the cheapest person, they could
Hmm.
get what they needed to get and it was going to be okay. And as
Exactly.
you just said, they just found out, no, it's not.
Yep.
So, and,
Yep.
and billions of dollars as a taxpayer, I'm mad that they spent that kind of money to figure out what we know just because we go shopping on a regular basis. Cheap
Exactly.
don't always work.
Exactly.
Let's just call it what it is. But
Yep.
we've got people joining us, and we're just like in the midst of this conversation. So we'll just back up and say, hello, everyone. This is Luciana Turner of LT&A, and welcoming you to the final contracting chatter of 2017. I want to introduce my co hosts to you. And we have Sheila Blackman, a government contractors coach, and she also operates a government contracting business, ITMC
Yep. ITMC Solutions. Yep.
Solutions. I always want to say enterprise for some reason. That's why I
Well,
stopped.
we are an enterprise. We probably will rename ourselves, but for today, we'll be ITMC Solutions.
And there we have it. And we have, did I lose Taikisha?
I,
And we,
can you see me? Am I just all messed up?
I see you now. And we
Okay.
have Taikisha Boone of Thai Enterprises. She finally, technology is great when it works, and when it doesn't work, IT want to blame you.
I had to want to go. I want to go back to my other screen and I can't. So I'm just kind of I'm just frustrated. So now I'm gonna hold this so you can see me. Okay.
Yes, I can see you.
All right. Well, hey. How y'all doing? Anyway, all right. Go ahead.
Hello, Doctor Doctor. How are you? So, you caught us in the middle of one of our backdoor conversations where we were talking. We kind of started the conversation off with just talking about the government finally realizing after they spent billions of dollars that this lowest cost, technically acceptable thing doesn't work. And, but it cost them billions of dollars to figure out something that industry had told them when they first moved to this platform that it doesn't work. So, but let's just back up a little bit. Today's chatter, you're just going to kind of get a backdoor conversation with industry experts. I've been in government contracting for over 12 years, and for 11 of those years, I did audit as from the government contractor's perspective. And one year, I actually worked as the financial analyst director on contract. So I actually have experience working on contract. And my whole year on contract is a contractor's nightmare where you have your people and they're out of scope. So it's kind of funny that my initial introduction to government contracting was being non-compliant because the contracting officer had just all out of scope. And when my manager found out, she was like, "Oh, time out. Oh, no. If you want her to do that work, then we're gonna have to rewrite her position, and this is the price point it's gonna be at." So I just found that funny. So when I talk about contracting officers are a little hilarious sometimes. They are. They'll try you. And
I
I
so
know.
know.
oh, we have an echo. Let's see. Here we go. So if anybody have questions, there's a chat box. Throw your question in the chat box and we'll try to answer them. And I still have an echo somewhere. Okay, I think I fixed it. Everybody except for the host should be on mute. So So I don't know what's going on with that.
It's because Takeisha has two windows up. She's gonna have to close one. One she must
Okay.
have dialed into, and one she's actually using her mic, and it's causing an echo.
Oh, okay. Technology is great when it works. But so Sheila, I think you were in the middle of making a point when I stopped to do the intro when we was talking about the billions of dollars spent with this technically acceptable thing.
Oh, sure. So let me introduce myself, and then I'll get back to the point I was making. So I'm Sheila Blackman, and I am the president and CEO of ITMC Solutions, as well as government contractor coach. And I have been in the Fed space for over 30 years. I graduated from North Carolina A&T State University, Aggie Pride, love my university. And my first job out of college was working with a large vendor providing simulation projects for the government. So I've grown from being that first year analyst to being a partner with the largest consulting company in the world, and having the opportunity to go after a lot of different types of opportunities on both the development side as well as looking at helping the CIOs and the CFOs in developing their budgets and understanding the impacts. And so my experience within the Fed space has given me a great opportunity to help small companies get started, lead big deals, and getting the opportunity to see the whole process from identifying an opportunity or even creating something that didn't exist to seeing it being executed and being meeting the requirements of the government. So I've got a number of years of experience that I then took to my own company, and we are pursuing deals in the Fed space based on all my experience of working with the large guys. And so what I was saying is this, the whole LPTA mindset, the government put it in place because there was this thought that the government could save more money by going with the cheapest price. And we as consumers know that whatever you buy, whatever the price point is to pay for it, you're gonna get what you pay for. That's just reality. That's actually the word of God. That's just how it is. And so if you pay little, you get little. You pay more, you get more. And so what I'm starting to see when it comes to establishing our companies and establishing how we work and how we want to learn, a lot of us don't want to invest in our companies. And so you invest little, you get little. And there are a lot of people that say, I train on how to get federal contracts. I can tell you what you need to do, and they go through the whole, you can go to the SBA website and get the same thing. And they'll charge you a price point for it. But what you don't get is the experience. You don't get the knowledge. You don't get the understanding of someone who has actually sat down with a client and told you, that is not what I paid for. Or sat down with a client and said, I need you to give me your expertise on how to do X, Y, Z. And so one of the most, and I was telling Luciana, one of the most frustrating things I'm noticing now is people want stuff for free. Well, I worked hard to get my years of experience, and my years of experience has brought billions of dollars into other companies' bottom line, help them to reach their goals and things. So to want it for free says to me that you don't really want to grow your company, because here's the thing, you grow your company, someone's going to come to you and say, well, I want to get started just like you did. And if you got started for free, you got to be willing to give for free. So I think that what we as business owners, and especially as Black women owned, Black-owned businesses, we've got to understand that we've got to put some work into it. And the more we put in, the more we get out. The results we will see will be based on our hard work. And I'm looking forward to seeing more Black-owned businesses and Black women-owned businesses in the Fed space, because there's not a whole lot of us. But there are great things that we can bring to the Fed space.
And that goes back to this whole thing on certifications. Ty is going to join us in the conversation once she kind of gets her whatever is going on together, because it's just a whole lot of noise and she's trying to fix it. But there's this great push in the, I'm not going to say in the market, in the stratosphere is what I want to call it. Get certified. And certification has its place when you have a plan of action. And to speak back to Sheila, when you go into a room and you talking to a contracting officer, you're talking to that procurement officer, Because, I think sometimes people think we're using the terms interchangeably, and we're actually talking about two different people.
Right.
Procurement officers, you have one job, the contracting officers have another job,
Right.
and your contract and your COTAR, and a lot of times there's three, maybe even four different people. So
Right.
let's clarify that we're not using these terms interchangeably. We're actually talking about different people in the process. So
Right.
let's get our language straight. I had somebody tell me, you speak government, when you lapse into governmentese, you speak it as though everybody speaks it. So let me do some interpreting for a moment. But they don't care about your certification at that point. When you're coming in to hold that initial conversation, when you're coming in to be interviewed, because thankfully your proposal was one of the final three or final five, and they're bringing you in to be interviewed. They don't care. They want to know, what do you do? How do you do it? And what solution do you have for my problem? Are you the penicillin for my infection? Are you the amoxicillin for my infection? And if you're not, I don't need to talk to you. So when we're going in and we're holding these conversations, when we're working to create opportunities that do not exist, you don't lead with, hello, I'm a DBE, ABC, LMNOP, no. You lead with, I am. My organization comes to you to do XYZ, which will solve your problem of ABZ. And by the way, when you get to the end and they love you, you can check these boxes off because I am an 8A. I am a woman-owned business. I am a DBE. Oh, wait a minute, you can solve my problems and I can meet my goal. Oh, wait a minute now. There's a reason why these government agencies are having a hard time reaching their goals. And it's because, ding, 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 it's because the businesses are positioning themselves well. So they're going with the bigger companies and saying, we can't find small businesses to meet our need because we're so busy, or if people are so busy, because I don't do it, they're so busy positioning and selling a certification, they forgot to sell that they can solve their problem. They done
Right.
forgot to sell, I'm the person that can do what you need. They forgot all about that because they're focusing on the cert. So when I say the government don't care about your certification, I'm saying it's not what you lead with. That's just icing on the cake. That's that piece of chocolate at the end of that great meal. That's what that is. But that isn't the meal itself.
Right. So, I want to share something with you ladies. Something I have not heard at all is having a relationship with the program manager, because reality is this: you'll never have a conversation with the contracting officer, the core, the anybody on the contract side about a deal and about moving a deal forward without building that relationship with the program officer. I have a deal that I'm working now where I structured it. I created an idea. Well, actually, the government came out and said, we have a requirement for this across the government. I created a solution for one of my specific clients, went to them and said, here's how ITMC can solve this problem for you. We know that you spend this much money here. Here's the results you've gotten. Here's what's not happening. We went down the whole list of all the issues that they had, and we told them how we could solve the problem. But we went a little bit further to say, we recognize that this might not be something we can do by ourselves. So we're going to bring KPMG in. They're one of our partners. We've actually partnered with the company that provides a solution that's an enterprise solution for the government. So we did our due diligence. We did all that we needed before we went to the client. We presented the solution to the client. The client was beyond excited because they didn't know what they were going to do. They didn't know how they were going to get started. And now we're working on completing a $10 million contract to sell the services to this just one agency. But we've now created a solution that the three companies are going to partner with, go across the government and sell the solution. We haven't talked to a single contracting officer yet. We don't expect to talk to a contracting officer because we don't need the contracting officer. We've done all we needed, and we've had no conversations around certifications or any of those things, because to be honest with you, the government wants to know, what is the solution you're going to bring to me? And like Luciana said, the certifications and all those things just gives them the check boxes to be able to say, we have this percentage of our contracts that went to woman-owned, small business, 8A, service-disabled vet, hub zone. Do we have those? Yep, we're in the process of getting those and others, but we didn't start with that because we realized that certifications without relationship brings you nothing. If you don't know the program managers, if you can't walk in and have a conversation with a CIO or a CFO or a CTO or whoever it is that fits within your business space, you're not going to go any place. Because all the contracting officers can say is, okay, well, I got your information. When something comes up that we think you might be, that might be valid for you, we'll start sending you opportunities, but that's all they can do for you. They cannot position you to go in and have conversations with anyone. They could, depending on whether you have a solution or not, but they're not going to unless you're going to make them look good. So certifications are great, but without experience and relationships, they mean nothing to you in the federal space.
And that is whenever an officer tells you, well, thank you for your time and I have your information, that's code for you didn't really tell me what you do and how working with you is of benefit. So I'm going to just put you in this file over here, work with these people over here that I've been working with because I know what they do and they can solve my problem. So, Ty?
Yeah.
Okay,
You can hear me, right?
I can hear you now.
I am so sorry. Whenever I turn on the camera, I get funky stuff. So we're going to say no to the funky and just get started.
Sounds like a winner. Now, Taikisha is of Ty Boone Enterprises. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Ty, and I want you to give me your little 15 seconds of thoughts on the conversation that's going on so far, and then we can just keep rolling.
Okay. Well, my name is Taikisha Boone. I am owner of Ty Boone Enterprises. I actually work with small and underfunded nonprofit organizations, helping them to get it together. You know, I have a lot of nonprofit organizations that come to me, and that's what they're looking for. They're looking for money. They're looking for $1 million grants, you know, right out the box. They're looking for $1 million grants, 501c3 approval in their hand, and they get all excited and they want some money right away. I think one of you guys mentioned earlier, or I think I read it from one of your groups or something that you posted that, you know, right out of the box, that's not going to happen. You're brand new. You don't have any history. You can't show that you know how to manage anything. You're coming to me with your 501c3 is probably about worth the ink that it was printed on, and you're saying, Ty, can you help me get $1 million grant? Can you help me get a $2 million grant? Yeah, we can do this, but we have to work on it. You have to position yourselves accordingly. There's things that have to be in place in order to even be considered for that kind of funding, you know, on the federal level. And I'm pretty sure that the same works with being considered for contracts. You have to come in ready, and you have to show that you have the strength and the capacity to take care of these things. I have a lot of people who come to me for grants, and what they need to be doing is looking more into contracting for their for-profit businesses. I have a lot of folk who are not really comfortable with boards and not really comfortable with letting go of ownership of their businesses, but they think that they have nonprofit organizations, and that's not how nonprofits work. I think I've sent a couple to you where I said, you know,
Yeah.
you should be talking to her. Don't talk to me. You should be talking to her. And, you know, of course, there's, you know, nonprofits also contract. And like you guys were saying earlier, it's all about positioning. It's all about being worthy of this money that somebody is going to give you to do the job that you say that you're going to do. You have to have a certain level of capacity to do that. You have to be able to be trusted with this. I've been reading about so many companies who've been getting into trouble because I'm, you know, $40 million to do a job, and you're not doing the job. You're not doing what you say you're going to do. And the same thing, you know, I think about the new administration, Donald Trump, and he gets a bad, you know, rep. Everybody's saying bad stuff. But I was looking at some of the things that he proposed to do and some of the funding that he proposed to cut. And just sitting on this side of the table, looking at the fact that people have proposed certain objectives. They've said they're going to meet certain goals. They said they were going to make certain impacts, and they have not done this. So if you were sitting up and you're the chief financial officer for the country, you're going to be looking at these things and you're going to say, where are the results? If you're saying that you're going to increase high school graduation, but when I look at the graduation rates, they're still low. Why am I giving you billions of dollars to do this? What should we do differently when you're into a contracting situation and you're also thinking about the overall impact? If you're serving, if a nonprofit is a part of a contracting situation, for example, and they're serving a certain population, what are you doing to make this better? What are you proposing to do that these people who are coming to you for this service, how are you graduating them from this service? What kind of impact are you making for the overall society that they won't be completely, totally, and forever dependent on what it is we have to, what else are you doing to add to this? We're giving you this money to do what you have to do, but how are we getting the biggest bang for our buck? How are you making this worth our while? Why are we working with you? Was that 15 minutes?
Well, I wanted to throw this out there. Two things. One, it's kind of funny because Ty and I first met because I don't even know how we met. That's crazy.
You were like, call me, like something like that.
Something. But I had talked to her about setting up a nonprofit foundation because there are some things I want to do to give back to my community, but I think it would be better served if I did it through a foundation versus running it through my for-profit. That's a side note. But on the state level, what I've come across several opportunities that my company could have performed on. I mean, we could have went in there and rocked the thing out, but they were specifically requesting 501c3s.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of funny because one of the questions, during that Q&A period when they released the RFP, there's that period where you can ask questions because you feel something is ambiguous. The question kept coming up. Why is this slated for a 501c3? Why don't you want a for-profit company to administer the program? And the answer that was given was a non-answer. But if you kind of read between the lines, they were basically saying these services were just as a caveat, the contract was for running one of those workforce development type things. So they really felt, even though it was government funds that was supporting this effort, they felt that a nonprofit mentality would be better suited to the administration of that program because of the whole nonprofits are there to serve versus for-profits is profit first, whereas nonprofit is profit secondary. It's not like you're not trying to make a profit, otherwise you'll go out of business. But that isn't your primary focus. So that was basically kind of their quasi answer to why they set it aside for a 501c3, which is why I invited Ty into this conversation. Because their government contracting and the whole nonprofit and grants thing, yes, they are different. But there are contracts that are set aside or slated on the state level. I haven't run into it on the federal level, and maybe I just haven't seen it, but I know on the state level, there are contracts out there that are specifically slated for 501c3s, but you have to follow the government contracting rules, which is why I brought Ty in, because if your 501c3 is set up right, if you don't have that board, if you have a government contracting shop, and if one more person tell me about an app for their accounting system, I'm going to start slapping people. I'm going to catch a charge. I'm going to be on CNN.
$8 billion.
I want $1 billion contract. Well, where's your accounting system? I have an app. What? No, I'm sorry. I'm getting ready to rant. I'm sorry. That's a pet peeve of mine. I can't.
We go into rants quite often because, sometimes I'm like, they made me do it. They made me do it. I'm going into these rants all the time because, like you said, I have people who are approaching me, and I'm in this grant group on Facebook. And I have people who come in there, you don't have an organization's name yet. You don't have a 501c3. You don't have a system in place to manage your accounting, anything, and you're like, we want $1 billion. Where are you gonna put this? You don't have a bank account. Like, where are you even
Oh my
gonna?
God.
I mean, how are we gonna get started with this? And then, I had someone come. He's like, and I said, okay, we got to set you up, and this is what I do, from the bottom up, so we get the whole foundational thing together. And he says, well, that's not what I need right now. I really need this grant. And sir, you're not gonna get this grant. We need to start you right here and work you up. I have people in my inbox, really wanting to do what you were saying, be a for-profit business because they're thinking profit first, and there's nothing wrong with that. My business is for-profit. I serve nonprofits, but hey, I'm gonna send you at the end of every communication that I send to you, I'm gonna put PSS on the bottom. That's PayPal, Stripe, or Square. So you have to you decide which one you're gonna send to me. But, I'm a for-profit, but for nonprofit, it works. It works differently where your service is first. They're gonna want to know what impact you're going to make, who are you serving, how you're serving them,
And the
where
invoices first too.
right, right, and the invoices first still, right? We still want to know. We want to know if we give you this money, what are you doing for us? That's what that is about in the whole nonprofit thing. And when you come across these contracts that are specifically for nonprofits, this is the thing. We have something that we need to have done. There's a mission that we have. We're not going to go out here and do it. We want you to do it for us. You have that whole sweetness that nonprofits have. So you're going to be the better communicator. You're going to be better at recruiting, whoever you need to have there. You're going to be just better in the community because we need to build community relationships. You're going to be better at that as a nonprofit. So we know that when we're gifting you, and we're not really a gift because you're working for this, when we're giving you this money, that you're going to make sure that it goes to the places that it has to go to. You're going to make sure that your bookkeeping system is on tax. You're going to make sure you're reporting this together. That's what they're trusting you with. So when you come up and you're trying to be raggedy and you're still telling me that can you help me get on with the state and get this contract or whatever, there's management you have to do. It's not that you're just going to be drawing down checks and getting this money. How are you going to manage this and you got your stuff on the app? I don't know. What's that about? How you going to do that? You're not going to do a really good job at it.
And and I'm not saying, yes I am. What I'm saying is simply this. That app is good for recording your mileage. That app is good for recording your meals on business travel. And that app is great when it interfaces with a system that can then drive it to your chart of accounts, that can then go into your various rate pools, that can then track and get loaded to the appropriate end objective, whatever project or contract that may be. You get where I'm going. Because guess what I just did? I just walked through the purpose of the audit. Here's the transaction, where is it going, and what is it benefiting? Now you understand why an app don't work.
So I agree. I'm laughing because I'm sitting here saying, I get a lot of people that come to me and say, I'm just getting started and I've been told I can get a $500,000 contract from the government. And my answer to you will always be, I don't know who told you that, but that's not true.
They lied.
You could get a number of contracts that could equate to $500,000 or even $1 million, but you will not get a contract awarded to you when you've just gotten started and you have nothing in the Fed space. It won't happen. But I want to take what Luciana just talked about and look at it from a different perspective, from a profit standpoint. So in this solicitation, they were specific that they wanted a 501c3 company. Now, for me, what I heard when she said that was somebody did their homework and they did this thing called ghosting, where they worked with the buyer to eliminate or to reduce the number of companies that could actually be able to respond to the solicitation. And so what they did was to make sure that the company or the agency wanted them, they gave them specific requirements that would eliminate companies like Luciana that could have done that because she didn't have 501c3 or she wasn't woman-owned or veteran-owned or whatever. That's called ghosting. And that's actually another way that you create deals for yourself where because of your relationship with the client, you shape it where it is so clear that by the time it's done, I can read a solicitation and tell you whether I'm going to pursue it or not based on certain things I see in it. Because I can tell someone has created this solicitation just for themselves.
Yes.
The government has to put it out because by law they have to put it out. There are some deals they can sole source without putting it out for competition, but very few, and it's at a very low dollar amount. But I can read a solicitation and say, you know, I'm not bidding this. This is already for someone else. And even if I have the best solution, they're still going to award it to them because there's going to be something, one thing about them that's going to be better. And why waste my time when I can go after something that I'm better suited for? So you got to understand how to read that RFP, how to read that solicitation, how to read that pre-solicitation, and determine, do I position myself to go after this or not? Am I going to prime it? Am I going to sub it? What's our solution point going to be? Who is the client? What's going on there now? How am I going to answer the questions of what they're asking? How do I add more than what they're asking for? How do I ghost other competitors that I know are going to bid on this? Who are the other competitors? And there's a whole lot of things you have to think about before you ever get to the place of signing a teaming agreement, before you ever get to the place of developing what your cost would be. There's a whole bunch of questions that need to be answered because you may find out that, yep, based on the title, I can do this. But when you start doing your homework, you may find out, oh my God, the stuff they want from this, I only have like a tenth of what they want. And for me to do this, I'm going to have to add 4 or 5 team members. I can't prime the deal. I can't. And when it's all said and done, you may find it's just not worth it for you. So, and the certifications, I promise you, the certification piece of it could be a piece that would make you determine whether you pursue or not. But I promise you, if something has been put out based on a certification, it is because of 1 or 2 reasons. Either the current vendor has that certification and that opportunity has been sitting with that certification for years, or the agency is not meeting their numbers and they have to find a way to meet their numbers. So like there's going to be a whole lot of hub zone opportunities coming out. There's going to be a whole lot of veteran-owned opportunities coming out because the government is not meeting those certifications. So if you can get those certifications, great, but you're going to have some experience with it. So you got to understand how the market works. And the best example I can give you is if you've been following the nominees that Trump has put forward for district judge. And the one who just recently came out and said he was resigning or rescinding his name as an option. The kinds of questions that he got, you would get the same questions from a contracting officer or others. And when it's all said and done, the only thing that's different is you're not going to be out in the public eye and people aren't going to be able to hear you say, oh, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Never have. I don't know. I can get it back. I can get back. You won't be able to, the public won't see you, but the government will. And like Luciana says, you get one opportunity to come before them. They will never forget when you failed at being able to answer basic questions. And you'll be starting from scratch from that point forward.
And you know, like I've used this when I did a presentation recently. I have a contract now with the state of Delaware. I bid on that contract when it came out in 2013, back when I first started my company, and I lost. My mistake, number one, and I knew better, but I was what they call parallelpreneuring. And in doing compliance audits, you work a base 60 hours a week. And I didn't have time to sit on the phone with nobody. I'm just being transparent, but I'm just letting you know what goes on in this thing. So I never did the debrief to find out why I lost the competition. But I won it this time around from the incumbent. And the one thing he said to me when we had our entrance conference was, when I said, I remember when this procurement came out before, I bid on the contract, and he stopped me and said, yes, I remember your proposal. This was this is 2017. That was in 2013. He remembered my company proposal. So when we say what you do makes an impact and it's important and they remember. Now, I've only been performing on this contract. It hasn't even been 6 months. It hasn't been 6 months, Sheila, since I've told you about I got the award.
Yeah, it's been about 6, 7 months. Yeah.
Okay, well, I just got a 2-year renewal, and in my email the other day. But I'm not saying that to say look at me, but I'm saying that to say I took that time to position myself. I did my own analysis. I looked at my own proposal, and I looked at the RFP. And this is, I don't know if this is a tip or a trick or what. I hired somebody to write that proposal for me,
Mhm.
and I did not making excuses. I'm taking ownership as a CEO of my organization. I did not do a proper review before I submitted it.
Mm.
And I said, okay, I would have said this, I would have said this. And the one thing they did in that write-up that I never would have did was kept playing up. Well, as a small business, as a small business, as a small business, as a small, I never would have did that. And why is because you don't lead with I'm small, I'm certified, I'm this, I'm that. Because contrary to popular thought, there are a lot of people who want to get rid of these set asides.
Yep. Yep.
They really want to do away with every certification out here except for the 8A certification. And it's probably because there's a 90% fail rate from after graduation, the reason why they don't want to get rid of that. And I'm just saying that because it's always going to be their foster child to prove we don't need to bring other certs back. But there are actually companies out here lobbying the government to get rid of these certifications. So you're going to have to do something so that when these people go in to fight on our behalf, as the women-owned, economically disadvantaged business that is so happen to be a blah, 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 they can say, look, they may have won this or they may have gotten a leg up because of the set aside, but look at how they're performing. Their performance is top notch, and we would have been denied the benefit of that knowledge if not for the cert. So that's why I say you don't lead with the cert, because that's almost like, and correct me if I'm wrong, and my analogy is a little wild, so forgive me. But that's almost like saying, come buy this house because this roof is great, but there ain't no floor, ain't no kitchen, we ain't got a door, ain't no wall. I don't care about this roof. I'm cold, but there's no wall. You get what I'm saying? You have to build your foundation, which is your service. Well, first of all, your foundations are your process and procedures. Then your services are your walls and your structural beams and stuff. And then your cert is the little roof and the little pretty shutters and stuff. I use a lot of house analogies. I watch too much Tiny House, all that stuff. I watch too much of it. But if you get what I'm saying, your services and how you do what you do is where you start off with, and then you top it off with all the pretty decorations and the flower in the front yard with your certs. And when they come to you, as she said, they ask you questions because you can win the award and lose the contract. And I'm going to say that one more again because that one was on my head.
Yep.
You can win the award. You submitted your proposal. You received the email. You have been awarded this work. They do a desk audit or a desk review where they ask you for certain things and you lose the contract because they've determined there's no way in the world you can perform, or they can't trust your pricing, or they can't trust something based upon what you did or did not give to them in that 5 or 7 day turnaround period, that they act like you ain't got nothing else to do with your life but to answer their questions. And when they tell you, when they send you that list email and you print it off, and I suggest everybody print. I know we trying to save trees. I'm a tree hugger too, but you better print it. You print it off and you start checking off. That email going to be about 2-3 pages long of what they're looking for. And they're going to want it in about 5 days because they're trying to quickly get this thing through the process. If you can't answer the mail, they're going to say thank you, and they're going to move right on to the next person. So don't get caught up on winning the award. Get caught up in being able to win the contract.
Right.
And that's two different things. Sheila?
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, Luciana's right on point. I have seen, now I've worked with large companies. So, of course, most probably 99% of the large companies have got their stuff in order. Don't believe that only large companies can just get through the process. Everybody can get through the process, but take the time to establish your company in the right way. You got to understand what DCAA is. You got to understand all these acronyms that exist in the Fed space. You need to understand them because they will come back and bite you in the butt. And the last thing you want to do is spend your time winning a deal to lose it because you're just not compliant. And so having someone like Luciana be a part of your proposal team is critical. Having someone who understands how to read through that solicitation, the whole thing, not just down getting to section L and section M, reading the whole thing to understand how you need to price the thing, how you need to respond, how many pages, all those things. And being able to look at the things that are going to be needed from a compliance standpoint is critical. And most small businesses go right to section L and M. That's it. They might read the front of it that gives you the requirements that you got to respond to. But all that little text that they ignore, like they do not, I will tell you this, the government will not put in there when you need to have information around a kickoff or your requirements around a kickoff. They'll embed it in other parts of the RFP. And 99% of small businesses that lose is because they never even they never answered the question to all of the, they never answered all the questions that were part of the solicitation. And then they go back and say, well, you didn't have that in the RFP section, section C. And they'll say, we didn't have to have it in section C. We gave you a solicitation that went from page 1 to 599. You were to read the whole thing and make sure you would be compliant. We don't just tell you to read section C, L, and M. You got to read the whole thing. And so understanding the requirements to win a deal is crucial. That's one thing. The second thing is there are ways that you can easily get a contract. And I tell people this all the time. I started my company when I left Accenture, which is a large consulting company. When I left them, when I got started, I went back to clients that I knew, told them I was starting my own business. And the way I got started is I got 3 purchase orders, and they were all for $150,000. And they awarded me 3 separate purchase orders that I wrote. I wrote the scope for them. I wrote out what we would be doing, what we would be delivering, all those things. And they awarded all 3 of them. I didn't have to do any competition. I didn't have to do anything because purchase orders can be awarded without competition. But if you're smart enough and you go to people that like you, you just ask them, what do you need? Mm-hmm. And that's what I wrote out. And they gave it to the contracting officer and he said, okay. Oh, it's Sheila. Okay. And they awarded me day 1, day 2, day 3, 3 separate purchase orders that I executed. And I wrote them so that I could actually be able to do all 3 at the same time, be able to invoice for all 3 at the same time. And in my first year of starting my business, I was able to book $450,000 worth of work. And I probably spent all of 5 hours talking to the client. But that's an easy way to get started. It's easy, it's legitimate, and I had everything else in place. And I didn't have to have these big systems in place. I had my QuickBooks and everything else there. I could actually be able to track everything, track my hours and everything else. And that's all I needed. Now,
I love that math though. I just got to intercede. 5 hours. How you said 500,000?
450.
I like that. 5 hours, 450. Yeah, I like that math. See, I love numbers. I would love to get $112,000 an hour. I love that. But I'm being facetious, but I just like listen to what she just told you. $100,000 from an hour for a 5-hour conversation. If you get what I'm saying, it took her 5 hours to win that work. That's all she did. She created the opportunity. She took the time to hold the conversation. 5 hours, net 450. So it benefits you. Now I'm getting ready to throw something else in, and then time to jump over to you real quick. I know I cut you off real quick, but I just have to throw this in there. There's this pervasive cancer in the industry, and it goes back to what we were talking about before we went live, of free. Why should I pay $5,000 to come? You want to pay Sheila $5,000 to attend her workshop because she just told you she made $450,000 in 5 hours. That's why you pay Sheila $5,000 in one day. That's why. So when you're thinking about the investments in the little tip, you can wrap these numbers up and apply it as an indirect rate to recoup that cost. But that's another conversation. Mm-hmm. But that's where you're seeing these numbers and you're like, well, why should I pay anybody this kind of money? Because first of all, this conversation we having right now, I had somebody inbox me and tell me that the presentation that I gave for 45 minutes on the platform where I met Dr. Doctor at, and I'm just using Dr. Doctor, where I met Dr. Doctor at, she was like, I used to charge $10,000 and I didn't even give them half of that information. Don't do that no more. The woman inboxed, she didn't know me from a can of paint, but she inboxed me to say, woman to woman, business owner to business owner, let's talk. We as women tend to over deliver. Don't do that no more.
Mm-hmm.
Next time you send them an invoice and then you give them that information. But, so I'm just saying the value, everybody want to talk about creating value and all this other stuff. The value is in her 30 years. Because how many of us, I didn't even think to do that. Everything I approach from an audit perspective. That's why I have people like Sheila on my list, on my Rolodex, where I can say, Sheila, I think I messed something up. Can you help me? Because that's what she does. And she does it well. And just like she calls and asks me questions about compliance, because that's what I do. When I ran into this other issue I had, I called Ty. Ty, you do nonprofits. I need your assistance. How can I say this in a manner that's going to get me what I'm trying to get to? That's why you that power partner list, and don't be mad, stroke a check, because we all of us on this webinar, all of us on this call, we all spent time to become the experts that we are. So let's all, just kind of keeping that going. But Ty, in the grant world, can you not lose a grant even after you've been awarded the grant?
Oh, yes, ma'am. I mean, it's very, very common, particularly when you don't know what you're doing. I posted the other day, be careful what you write for. You just might get it. Just like be careful what you wish for. You just might get it. Because if you can write, if you're a decent writer, you can write. You can propose. It's just like you getting married and somebody proposes to you. They're promising you that they're going to do a certain thing. They're going to take care of you and blah, blah, blah. You trust them enough based on this proposal to accept their proposal of marriage, and you marry them, right? That's kind of the same thing that you see going on with your grant proposal. You're saying what you're going to do, and it's based on something that you're telling them, based on this, I'm proposing that I'll do this, and I trust that you're going to do it, because I've seen a little bit of what you've done, and I believe you're going to do it. But then you get this money, and you don't know how to manage it. You're not doing what you said you're going to do. Just like I was talking about Trump and the administration earlier, and why he's proposing to cut some of these funds, is because the things that you say that you're going to produce, the impact that you say you're going to make, you're not doing those. I've had people who are just falling out of compliance and getting the stuff taken from them. You're not reporting, or you're putting the money in places that it's not supposed to go. I worked with AIDS Alabama several years ago, but we had a partnering organization that we were on a CDC grant with together, right? And the other organization, the CEO, I don't know what his problem was, but he decides, hey, we're looking at a whole lot of money right here. I think I could just take some of this money and put it on me, not my salary, but when I get this check, I'm gonna go over here, we're gonna start buying new cars. He wasn't paying his staff. What's happening to this money? Yeah, you're looking like, yeah, this is real, real true stuff. And his staff was coming to us because we had some MOUs in place and things about how we were gonna do the project, and they weren't even getting their salary. They weren't getting paid. What's going on? What's happening? The CEO was taking the money. Of course, it didn't take that long for CDC to pull the entire project. Didn't take much longer after that for the organization to have to shut down completely. That guy, he ended up, being caught up in a whole lot of legal stuff that he had to deal with because of that, pretending that he did not know that you weren't supposed to do it. But it's in the proposal. You're telling them what you're going to do. You have to do what you say you're going to do. No, you can't take the money. If this money is to buy elephants, you got to buy elephants with the money. You can't buy puppies with the money. If you happen to find out in the middle of your grant that or the middle of your process that, hey, it's not working with elephants, maybe we have to buy puppies. You need to justify that. You need to contact the funder. Say, hey, puppies are, for some reason, we have more puppies over here than we have elephants, and they need to approve that before you go out and start doing what you're not supposed to do. Because they do it all the time. And particularly when you're going in without the knowledge, you don't know. And management is so key. Everybody is ready for the money. Everybody wants it, and you just might get it. You just might look up and get it. Just you had it written, great. The competition was not very high. You can get it, but you can get it taken away from you just as soon as they give it to you. And you better be careful, because you can go to jail, with messing up folks' money.
Now, before I turn it back to Sheila, I do want to emphasize on that point. If you read in the itty bitty language on page 327, clause 4GL, it says, knowing or unknowingly misrepresenting any information can and will result in penalty up to and possibly including jail. Sheila.
Yeah, that's true. That is absolutely true. And I've seen companies where, as a prime, bringing in a small business, and you hate to see small businesses fail, and you hate to see them get in trouble, but it is real. It is real. I know of a small company who falsified information, and as a prime, we had no choice but to let the government know, because we were going to be held accountable as well, because we didn't do our job. And that prime disbarred list now. He will never be able to do work in the Fed space, no matter what. And he had to pay back the government all that was paid to him and penalties. And so there's a huge price for us not understanding. And the government will say to you, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry that you misread, or you don't speak English, or whatever the excuse you give them. But I have to put you in jail right now for a few years. And during that time, if you like, we can get you some education on how to read and understand. But you got to go to jail. And I've seen because agencies actually with individuals being walked out in handcuffs.
Yes.
I've seen it for real. This is a for real thing. So the government don't take excuses. They're taking some right now with this administration, but it's only for a season. But we as individuals, we have to understand what to run our business and to run it right. And if you want to do work in the Fed space. But I just have to believe that it's not just in the Fed space, because at some point the government gets involved in everything we do. So understanding how to sell your services to the federal government and do it right will bring great rewards, positive. I guess it's not a reward to go to jail, but it'll bring both positive and negative results that at some point will give you something great. Might not be good, but it'll give you something great. So we got to know what we're doing.
And my motto is, I'm too cute for prison. I'm not going. So we have just really kind of given y'all a lot of information here. We kind of gave you, if we were really having this conversation, oh my God, it was just really going to go on and on. But does anybody have any questions? You can throw them in the chat box for us. So we have a couple of minutes. If you have to jump off, that's understandable. But we have a few more minutes to go. And I want to ask Sheila a question in particular. And then I'm going to come back around and tie. In government contracting, we have this phrase, it's something we call the Wall Street Journal test. And then you talked about the whole disbarment and people getting walked out in handcuffs. And I actually witnessed that my first year in government contracting. They actually came in there and they didn't go behind no closed door. No, they walked them out in handcuffs, and it was a very sobering experience. So my question to you is, what is that one thing that you're seeing that is a trend, a habit, is a something that in 2018, because we only have a few days left in 2017, is going to be the death knell of somebody's business if they don't stop? What is that one thing?
I think the thing that I'm seeing in a lot of companies that are coming into the Fed space is they believe they're just going off of what they're hearing. from individuals and other companies. And they're not taking the time to really understand it. And this is something that's been happening for years. And I believe that everybody is getting an idea of what it's like to say and do things that are not compliant in the Fed space. I absolutely believe that everything that we're seeing with what's going on with Trump and his family and the election and post pre and post election, those are the things that other people are going to start seeing in their businesses, because what is happening is the government is now doing a much better job at looking at their spending, because they're trying to figure out, why are we spending but we're not really getting the results we want to get. And so for companies, a lot of companies have gotten in, and you're going to start seeing more stories of companies that have gotten in, awarded large contracts, never wrote a proposal, never provided pricing, never did anything. But there's this idea that because someone told me I could do this, they did it. And you're going to start hearing of more companies that are being prosecuted, that are being disbarred. And there is no more, I don't know. And so the trend has been for years now. It's been for a number of years. And for small businesses, it's been good for small businesses for at least 10 years, where work was just being thrown at small businesses. At the end of the year, it's August, September, they got to close the books, they got to get these things off the books, they got to get them awarded, and they destroyed at small businesses without doing the due diligence. It is not the government's fault that they didn't do the due diligence. It's that small business that knew they didn't have these things in place. And so as these audits are going to be increasing, and we're going to start seeing the government get more involved in the things that are happening, my advice to everybody who's interested in being in the federal space, and it's not going to matter whether you're doing a federal contract or whether you are just doing a commercial contract, learn it for yourself, get it for yourself, and understanding that there's an investment for everything that we do. And if you continue to invest in companies or individuals that don't have experience, like Takesha talked about grants, clearly from my understanding of my listening to her, she knows what she's talking about. And if someone can't give you an example of something that they have done or are currently doing with a real contract, don't invest your money in them, because you're going to jail. They're going to tell you some things that they read, but you don't get everything from reading. You have to have true experience to understand how the government works. And that's one question that I would tell everybody to ask. Anybody that says, I can help you in the federal space, ask them, tell me the name of a contract that you are either working now or have worked. What was the value of that contract? What were the results that you had to provide? And how did you end in that contract? Did they ask you to stay on? Did you get an extension? Did they cancel your contract? And oh, by the way, you can actually find out for yourself if they're telling the truth, because there's a system out there that identifies every single contract awarded and how a company performed. But you got to start asking questions. And that's something that small businesses are not doing, because they do get excited about the money and they forget about the compliance.
I'm glad you said that, because I was researching some businesses to partner on something that I was looking at bidding on. And the person I spoke to, I don't know if it's me, maybe it's because I'm an auditor and I have audit bells that just kept ringing in my ear. And I just went and stumbled onto something and I checked what they told me. And that $1 million contract that they said they had, I don't know why the federal spend report only said it was $50,000. I ain't found that $1 million contract yet.
Well, I mean, they could have had $1 million contract, but they never reached the ceiling of the dollar on the contract. So they only billed $50,000 and was paid for $50,000. But that also is a flag that tells you that if they had $1 million ceiling and they only billed $50,000, most likely they did not perform, because the government never bought anything else from them. So there's a lot of stuff that you can tell about a company. People can say I've won this, but okay, how much did you really bill an invoice to the government and they actually paid? Because that can tell you a whole lot about their performance, the contract, everything.
So Ty, same question to you. What is that one thing? You know, we actually had a little Facebook tirade 2 weeks ago, I think it was, that make your teeth itch. That they just need to stop. And you know, we all know teeth don't itch, but it's that something that just, that just needs to just stop happening. Ty?
I mean, I'm totally agreeing with what you just said. I mean, the thing, and I'm seeing the exact same thing, you know, coming over into nonprofit, where first of all, folks don't want to take the time to do their research. They don't want to take the time to get educated. I always talk about the funding fairy in my group, right? They always think that a little funding fairy is going to come by and starts dropping little dust, little pieces of money on them without them doing the work that it takes to actually keep this stuff. I mean, I remember working on on a grant that was with NIH or CDC, I can't remember, but I was hired to work on this thing when they were already, 2.5 years into the contract, right? And when I got there, there was really nothing that was done, so we had to put in for a continuation so we could keep the funds and we can keep and doing all the stuff. The problem with that was what the funder wanted to find out, well, what was happening in these 2.5 years, because in this proposal, you told me you were going to do all this stuff. None of this stuff was actually being done. Then you had to say, well, we had to wait because we had to hire. We got the continuation because they accepted that excuse. But if you're not educated and you don't know how this stuff works, they're thinking that you're just sitting there and you're not doing anything. They don't know what it looks like inside your organization. They only know what they're reading. If they haven't, really, really done their job to know what's going on inside your organization. And a lot of us get messed up because we see that there is a $4 million or $40 million there. And you go, yeah, I'm gonna get this. I don't need any education. I need somebody to write me a grant. I don't care about the meat. I just want I don't care about what goes on the inside. I made like a little peanut butter and jelly analysis in my group, peanut butter and jelly sandwich. All you care about is the bread. You ain't got a peanut butter and jelly sandwich until the peanut butter and jelly is there. There's the stuff that's in the middle that you have to know. You have to take the time and be educated about. You can't skip over stuff. Everything is a process. There is no funding fairy. You have to know what this for yourself. It's one thing to hire a consultant. It's one thing to hire somebody to do your fund development for you. There's one thing to hire somebody to write your proposal for you. But if you're the CEO, you're the ED or whatever you call yourself, you have to have the knowledge and the know-how on your own. You have to take the time and learn this stuff. And if you're not willing to do that, you're gonna mess up in business. It doesn't matter if it's nonprofit or for-profit. You can't just sit there with the mannequin head and say, hey, well, everybody is doing this stuff for me. Because when you get the phone call, when I remember getting a phone call one time, and the funder's on the other end of the phone, and saying, hey, I got a question about this grant that y'all got. And I want to know X, Y, and Z about this grant. I had no idea. I'm working in this organization. I was the head of this department, but I didn't know anything about this particular grant that he was asking about. Apparently, it came through the organization. The CEO did some stuff with it or whatever, but I didn't know. And that was me. I missed the mark right there, because as the director of that department, it was my job to get in there, find out everything about whatever piece of money that was coming through that organization for my department, and know everything I needed to know about that in case I got that phone call. So what do you do when you got somebody else writing a proposal for you? You ain't even reading the proposal. You sending it in, you don't know what they said you gonna do. You send it in, you get the award, and you post it on Facebook. Y'all, I just got this grant for $400,000. I just got this contract for $100,000. You don't even know what you're supposed to be doing, and then now you gotta backtrack, and you gotta spend all this time trying to figure out what in the world am I supposed to be doing. I don't even know how to do this. I don't know what's up. And then you get in trouble. Now you ain't got no fund. And now I had an organization, I guess about 2 months ago, come to me. They had got a $450,000 grant, right? And right now today, and they gotten that probably 4 years ago. Right now they have no money. They had a building, they lost the building.
Oh wow.
They had staff, they lost the staff. Now she's trying to work from home, trying to figure out how to get her organization up and running because she didn't have a sustainability plan, right? Mm-hmm. So you got this grant, you're all happy. What do you do now? First of all, however you came upon this grant, I don't know, but you got the grant. You don't know how to sustain. You spent all this, you're not doing any work while you have this contract, right? The money is leaving, you're spending stuff. Then you think that you got everything together because you got $450,000. But then what happens next year when you're not able to sustain? You can no longer pay salaries. You got to fire folks. You got to do. You don't have anything going on, and don't let that one award, no matter how large it is, be the end of your, be the end of your road as far as looking for additional contracts, looking for additional grants. I tell people, especially those who I serve who are new and underfunded, to always start at the bottom, because you have to build up your financial portfolio. People have to trust you with money and things like that. So I go out and, start with corporate, start with community, look at foundation and state. And you're not even ready to look at federal funding yet, because you ain't even got nothing. You don't have anything in place. You ain't even got 2-3 years of financials to show. You got $25 in your business banking account. So we're not looking at that right now. We're looking right here. Let me see if you can get this $50 Walmart card, and then we can get you $500,000 later on. Let's start right there, and you build your way up. And I see a question. I don't know if that question is for me or not, but it talks about.
Oh yeah, I see it.
It's 501 that she's talking about. But the process is it's the same. Once you register your organization and you do the same type of registration in the front end, when you're done your SAM and all that kind of stuff, you register your nonprofit organization so that it's able to, or at least eligible to receive contracts and things like that. There's, basically what the announcement, like Luciana was talking about a second ago, it'll specify. Yeah, you can nonprofit, you could be there's some, for you can be a church, you can be a tribal, whatever it says, it specifies it in the RFP. On your state level, you can go in, I don't know what state you're in, but usually you can go to your state and you can register at your state. I get stuff like sent from Delaware all the time, because like everybody does this, like Delaware. But you can go in and you register with your state as a contractor, you can be a grantor or grantee with your state. But basically it depends on your state and how you do that. But in your service, what service are you providing? Are you providing a service that that they're offering contracts for? And this is why a lot of people are missing it. The same thing for grants. I tell people, you have to have the program first, and then you go for the grant, right? You don't say, oh, there's a grant out there and they're serving elephants, and my mission was to serve puppies, but now I'm going to serve elephants because there's a grant out there for serving elephants. I'm going to do this, and then you get frustrated because you didn't get the grant, right? But you have the program first. That way you have some proof that you know what you're doing. You have some proof that you're serving people for that particular program, and then you find the grant, and then you have the grant. I have what I call a mission matched matrix that I use when I do grant search. If you're matching who you serve with what who they're wanting you to serve, where you serve it, where they're wanting you to serve, how you serve, how they want you to do it. They tell you everything that they want you to do, right? So you have to do that. You have to have your programs first. It's not that you're creating stuff on the fly to fit into what the grant has. You're expanding what you're already doing. You're enhancing the service you're already providing, and they're just going to help you do it all the better. You may be serving more people with what you're doing. You're serving them better, but you're not just making this stuff up as you go, because when you're making it up from the ground and they want to know, well, what's your success with this so far? You're happy because you ain't done this before. So you can't just be making.
And I think that's a key point, but to go a little further into answering the question. And the question is, and I have to put my glasses on, is they've never seen, well, they said 201c3, but it's 501c3 contracts, and what areas on the state would do that. The problem with state procurement portals is most of them don't have a search functionality. I'm just keeping it real. They don't. So they have them segregated. They have them segmented. Let's use that term. They have them segmented by categories which are comparable to the NAICS code categories. Mm-hmm. But their search capability is really non-existent. Even, I think Virginia is one of the states that you can, quote, search for your proposals. But even their search criteria, even the way you search in there is ridiculous. So unfortunately, what you're looking at really is going to be going in and just really looking for what's there. Is that a service that you offer? What you'll see in quite a few RFPs where they will say for-profit, nonprofit, religious groups are welcome to bid. And then you'll see where they specifically carry out you must be 501c3 or you must be blah, blah, blah. And to that end, as Sheila talked about the ghosting, that RFP was probably written for somebody. After a while, you'll get to be able to discern when you have something that was written specific to one company and something that is like generally speaking. Because I'll tell you here, I've been on Florida's procurement site. They don't have a search function. You just really have to look for what's out there that matches what you do, and then see if it says a 501c3 cannot bid. I've never seen that. I've been told it exists, but I've never seen where they say 501c3s cannot bid, must be for profit only. I don't think I've ever seen that on the state level. To answer that question. And then we have another question here. You signed up on FESBID Opt to receive notices and you got a phone call and there's a waiting. She said, phone call. I'm sorry, I do not understand the question.
Yeah, that's not FedBiz Ops. They don't call you.
No, they don't. It sounds like somebody who did some phishing on the site and they're trying to sell you something.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. So it wasn't me, it was my sister. I think she was just trying to get some information, and someone called her. And I was actually trying to text with her while I was on the phone with you, which she is at work, and to try to get more clarity. So it may be something I need to try to send later in an email. But they kind of called her and, talked about what types of contracts that she wanted to, she was looking for.
Yeah, that's not FedBid Opt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
maybe I'm not
somebody trying to, and it's not that.
Okay.
And Sheila, correct me if I'm wrong. There are no government sites. SAM, FESBID Opt, what is that other one? NetSpin. There's another one. They won't call you.
No.
Okay.
No. That's someone trying to sell her a service.
Yes.
Okay.
The federal government says there are going to be millions of people that we would have to call, so we don't call nobody. You register, you get in, they give you the opportunities. It's up to you to do everything. But if she's getting phone calls, tell her to run and run quickly, because they're going to offer her a service that's going to cost her far more than she's going to get from them, and it's not going to be worth it for her.
Okay, great. I'm glad I asked, and I'll let her know.
And I think that is, thank you for asking the question, because it's actually a valid point. Before we wrap up, there are a lot of businesses out here. You will get these great emails. Your SAM profile is expiring and it will be deleted in 72 hours of expiration. Give us a call, 1-800-HELP, that's SAM's help or something. And the only reason I said this because I got that email.
Yeah, I got you.
Doesn't exist. No, that is somebody. And when you look at the email, they're even getting good with spoofing the government emails. Mm-hmm. But you really got to look, because there is not a government email out there. If it doesn't end in .gov, .mil, there's another one. .gov and .mil, be suspicious. What they at the email address was some help at sam.gov.net. You will never see that from the government.
Right. And you will, just so everybody knows, you will get an email from sam.gov when your registration is about to expire, but it comes from sam.gov. That there's I think Kim, you just wrote, it was U.S. Fed contracted. Run from them. That is a group of people that have never ever won any federal contracts whatsoever, and all they do is they spend time on sam.gov. They pull up individuals' information. They look to see how long you've been in there. And they'll send out messages making it look like it came from the federal government. It did not. And the name that they put in there is U.S. Fed contractor. They're not contractors with the government. They're trying to convince people that the government has hired them to go out and find companies that want to pursue contracts in the Fed space. The government, one, by law can't do that, and two, has not done that. So just don't.
Go run as quickly as away as.
Right.
But the government will email you. Is it possible to be awarded proposals by agencies even if we have not completed state or federal registration? No. Let me tell you, in the RFP, it says must be registered in SAM and whatever other little system they have prior to award. I just read one that said at the time of proposal, and they wanted you to submit. I forget what section of SAM it is. They actually wanted you to submit that with the proposal to prove that you registered. Now, is it hard to get registered and active in SAM before the award is made? It isn't hard, but I will tell anybody, why put the cart before the horse? It doesn't work. Just do the registration. It doesn't take that long. It doesn't take that long as your IRS match doesn't reject. And so make sure whatever the IRS has for your business is the same as what you put in SAM, because if it don't match, they will reject it. And I think I got my approval back within a day from SAM. I think it was a day. I don't think it took that long. I mean, it's not instantaneous, but it doesn't take that long. So just go ahead and do that process first.
Yeah. So here's the thing that everybody needs to understand. You have to do DUNS first, because what they do is issue you a cage code. They will look at your DUNS information. They will validate the address of your business. And if it's not a valid address, if it's a PO box, you cannot register with the federal government.
True.
If you don't have a business email address, you cannot register with the federal government. They do not accept gmail.com or yahoo.com email accounts. So you should give yourself at least a week, because going through the whole cage process can be a pain, because they do use contractors to do that. So give yourself at least a week to get through the whole process of getting your DUNS and your and then from that point on, you just have to make sure every year you just renew your SAM and your DUNS. You don't change that unless there's something about your company that changes. So yeah, if you're already starting to write a response and you're not in SAM, you're wasting your time, because it will not go into place. So make sure you get your SAM's registration, because that is now what the government uses. They've consolidated 4 systems into one, and that is now the one system that's used to validate that you are a valid vendor to buy or sell services to the government.
And I'm also say this: there's a beta SAM out that they're testing, and I don't know if you've seen it, Sheila, or not.
Nope.
But there's a beta SAM out there that they're testing, is running parallel to the current SAM. Once you get the quirks and the kinks out of it, and I verified that it was a real government site, because people do all kind of crazy stuff, and it was actually a part of a GSA contract award. And they're going to be consolidating. There's still a couple of antiquated government systems out there that they're still utilizing.
Yeah.
And one of them, I can't think of the name of it, but every time I go to the site, it's my antivirus just flags it as an unsafe site. I always have to override my internet security to go to the site. I don't know what it is with that particular site. So I think this is the last integration of all of those legacy procurement sites. But once it goes live, which I think is supposed to be in March, they're going to you'll get an email and they're going to shut down SAM. But what they're saying is you're going to have to re-register. They're not porting any data.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to make everybody re-register, which I find, I'm going to keep tracking that. I find that interesting, because then I just think that's interesting. But
yeah, because SAM is only 2 years old, so I would find it interesting, because even when they brought SAM up, you didn't have to re-register.
Right.
They did put your information. So I would reach out to GSA directly, because I would find it strange that they just instituted SAM and now they're moving to something else.
Yeah, that is crazy. And then we have one last question, and we're going to kind of do like a wrap up. Um, Here's the thing: when you're looking for opportunities, whether you're for profit, nonprofit, whatever. One, the first thing I would recommend to you, if you're having difficulties receiving opportunities, because I'm looking at what you said you do, and I just deleted 30 emails along them lines. So I know there's work out there. I will tell you this. One, review your NACE codes. If you go to census.gov/NACE, I think is what it is. I have to pull the information. I think you're in my chatter group. I'll post it in there. You can call the people and they'll help you with your NACE code. Secondly, I know most experts tell you starting your home state and then branch out. I tell you start with who is buying your service. If your services are not being purchased in your state and you have the capacity to serve in excellence in Alabama, and I only know this because of the election that Alabama is next to Florida. But you can service in Alabama, and Alabama is purchasing your services, honey, cross the line. Do the registration and service in excellence in the areas that are purchasing your services. I currently reside in North Carolina. My contract is in Delaware. And I'm doing something right. They like me. They keep paying my invoices. They keep sending people my way. So I understand the thought behind stay local.
Mm-hmm.
However, if North Carolina ain't buying what I offer and Delaware is, don't think I'm not going to sell Delaware. I'm just saying. So
Luciana, can I add to that?
Oh, sure, go ahead.
So the other thing I would tell everybody, and this is something that I see all the time, is that people get so stuck on what they do every day. In the federal market, you can create a deal from anything. So this one that on team building and classroom training, you can go and sell team building and classroom training on an IT solution. So they're building a new solution. There's going to be a need for training. There's going to be a need for team building. It's so many ways. You have got to get out of your box of this is how it's always done. And you got to be creative in how you sell your services. Because I can tell you, I build systems. But I bet you one thing, I will go in there and sell to the government that you're going to need some training. I don't do training, but I know how to tap into people that do training. And I know how to then take that and expand the contract that I'm building. So you got to be able to get outside of your box and come up with unique ways to be able to get your services bought by the government, whether it be as a sub to someone, or you going in and just saying, you know what, I read in the Washington Post that you guys are struggling with finding individuals that can actually execute in the positions that you're hiring. Let me tell you how my executive program works and how I can help you to find the right people to do the job that's needed and to be able to meet your needs. And we can get started within the next 30 days. Or actually, we can get started as soon as you need. It maybe your side is too slow, but we can actually help you get it done quickly. I'm telling you, I can shape a deal from nothing, and you'll walk away saying, how did I just get this $1 million contract? And let me tell you how.
I love it. I love it because I'm going to tell you what I'm the queen of, what do you do? Oh, okay. On this contract that just submitted, I sent somebody this statement of work. That's not what I told them. That's what I heard. Can you do it? Yeah, but that's not, I think I had this conversation with somebody, and it might have been you. But I had this conversation when I said, stop talking about what you've done. What are the skills that are required to do what you do? And then where can those skills be applied? And then secondly, and then we're going to do a wrap up. I don't care about your political leanings. I don't care if you like 45 or you don't like 45. I don't care if you like Congress or you don't like, it don't matter. When these people get on the news to talk, I want you to listen for opportunity, opportunity, opportunity.
Yep.
I just read an article where they get ready to hire 26,000 people to shore up Border Patrol.
Mm-hmm.
They're not hiring 26,000 government employees. They are hiring 26,000 contractors. Now, let me take it a little bit further. Well, maybe not 26,000, maybe 20. But they're not going to hire 26,000 government employees. But let me take it a little bit higher. You do training. Even though the article said it's Border Patrol, don't they get trained?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying. With all these shenanigans in the news, with people not knowing what to say to people, don't we need some sensitivity training? I'm just saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Even if you're a 501c3, stop thinking the only thing you go after is a grant.
It's girl.
Exactly.
Cut it
I'm
out.
telling you, I saw that email too. I saw that message too.
Girl, I was looking at that thing. What can I get on this? How can I get in on it?
I led the team that
I saw
actually
that.
wrote the software that's used at the borders. Everybody that comes through that has to give your biometrics, I led the team that wrote that software. Do you think I'm not sitting here saying, okay, I'm training people, I'm gonna tap into my old people that actually built the system? You think I'm not trying to shape a deal out of this? You gotta
Yeah.
get here on the, you have to take a here, and we have so many opportunities on the news today. If anybody says I can't get a federal contract, it's because you're not trying to. There are so many opportunities. I am on CNN. CNN runs across all day long, every day. Oh, what? Trump just said what? Oh,
What? Wait, but that's another job.
Hey, brother said.
yeah, yeah. Everything is an opportunity. You just have to know how to shape it, and you have
His
to
whole
cannot be
national.
afraid to go.
I'm sorry, Sheila.
No,
But
go
his
on.
whole national security speech was job, 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 job.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
yeah.
But I think what happens with us as women, we're all sisters here. We all women. Well, you know what? Let me scroll. There's only one person I don't. Okay, we all sisters and brothers in here because I'm not sure if I'm being sexist or not with that statement. I apologize. But
And that
we are
would have been an opportunity to
we're
somebody.
all partners in this thing. Stop excluding yourself and find out how to include yourself.
Yep.
I'm going to say it again, and then we really going to wrap up. Stop excluding yourself and start including yourself. If you don't want to sit at the table, bring your own table and chair and sit next to it, but you need to listen and find out where these opportunities are. Take good notes, take copious notes, go back and create you're going to hear me say strategy so much, you're going to hear me say compliant strategy and sustainable until you probably going to want to smack me, but that's okay. When you cash that check, I want you to pay my invoice. No, them 3 terms right there. Them 3 terms, strategic, compliant action will result in a check when you partner with industry experts to fill in the gaps of your knowledge. That's what I'm saying. You got 3 on this call. We're going to start with Ty. How can they get in touch with you?
Well, I have a group that I love on Facebook. Is Nonprofit Success with Ty. I drop a lot of nonprofit nuggets there. You guys can do that. My website is www.tyboonenterprises.com. My Facebook page is Tyboon Enterprises. My email address is Takesha@tyboonenterprises.com. And I know we're like just wrapping up right here, but I wanted to add, you guys were talking about SAM and all this kind of stuff. Don't pay a grant writer to write a federal grant for you if you don't have that. I have had so many people come to me who've paid thousands. This one lady has paid a total of $20-something thousand to a grant writer who said that they were writing a federal grant for her. And she did not have a DUNS number. She was not registered to SAM. It goes back to some basic things that you have to know to even get to that point. But then you spit out this kind of money. They were in some legal situation together, but the result of that was, hey, she said she was going to write a grant. She wrote the grant. So she did what she said she was going to do, but you weren't ready for. You didn't even have the basic things down, and that SAM registration would be something that's basic because you have to be in that system in order to receive a federal award. I think that's it. And I give y'all my contact. Make sure you don't, just know what you're supposed to be doing. You can start out, you don't have to have SAM registration and things like that to apply for corporate sponsorship opportunities. A lot of community grants won't require that you register. But then even though, depending per state, if the funding is passed through from the federal government, you'll still have to be in that registration. So make sure you get that done and do it sooner than later.
Okay, Sheila, how can they get in touch with you?
So I'm going to share my screen for a second. The best way to get in contact with me is to reach out to my, one second, I get this thing come up, is to send me, to go online and set up a time to have a 30-minute assessment with me. I have stopped taking emails because, to be absolutely honest, I get a lot of emails and I just don't answer them because I don't know what they're about. And so the best thing to do is to go on, set up time, go to my calendar, set up time to have a 30-minute session with me. And what I do in that 30-minute session is I learn a lot about you. I learn a lot about your company and what you're looking to do. And I share what we do in Government Contractor Coach. In 2018, we're changing our whole program because what I found is that a lot of people are talking about the basics of getting into contracts. We're going to talk about real solutions and approaches to pursuing opportunities. And how do you actually create opportunities, not just finding the things that are FBO or FBO, because most people don't want to spend the money to actually purchase a tool that gives you opportunities. And so we're going to talk about a lot around pricing, how to price a deal, how to create your chart of accounts, how to come up with your pricing, your rates for you. Most of you probably would say, well, I probably charge $50 an hour for myself. No, my rate as a subject matter expert is $350. That's the max I can give the government, is $350. Now, on the commercial side, it will be a lot higher because the expectation is that if you want to learn how I've done what I'm doing, you're going to want to pay some money for it. So I'm just giving you a heads up. I'm not going to charge you guys that much. For some people, that would be. Large corporations, I charge them that. So this is the best way, is to go out, schedule time. The first one is, the first call is 30 minutes and it's free. And we spend time getting to know you, and we talk about what it is I can do to help you, and then decide whether we're going to work together or not. The other thing is that I'm constantly looking for companies to partner with on deals that I am pursuing. And so I have my Facebook page is Government Contractor Coach. Go out there. We're going to start posting the things and the activities that we're going to be doing. But I'm also going to start using that as a way to find companies to be able to partner with on deals that we are pursuing. So that is me, and that's how to get in contact with me. And I'm looking forward to hearing from all of you because I'm looking forward to working with a lot of new companies.
Okay. Oops.
Oops, I'm sorry.
Oh, no. I heard a beep. I thought somebody was posting a question. So,
oh, you know what, Luciana, I actually did want to answer one of the questions because I'm actually going through that now. Somebody asked a question about virtual office. I'm actually going through that now because I use a virtual office because my strategy for how I'm growing my company is not to have a lot of outlay for operational. I'm not that big on having my name on a building. That to me doesn't mean anything. And so I have a virtual office, but what I found out is that the paperwork I got said that this was a valid virtual office that would meet the federal government requirements. It does not. And so if you're going to get a virtual office, make sure you're paying the money to have an assigned desk. If you don't have an assigned desk, your cage will be rejected. And you will have to start over, and you will have to go through the process of providing them with a lease, and it has to be at least a year in duration for them to approve that office for you. So if you're considering getting a virtual office, paying that $99 a month is not going to work. You're going to have to pay that $300 or $400 a month because they want to make sure you have a desk that is not shared with someone else, and that they can validate that that is your office for your company. So that's the virtual office.
And keep this in mind too. you will find virtual offices will tell you, oh, we're hub zone, we're this and we're that. Be careful of that. I know, and I think I saw a Maryland area code in the call, so I'm gonna share this information. There's the federal hub zone, and then the states have their own hub zones. Depending upon what state you're in, they will not accept a virtual office. I know Montgomery County, Maryland does. Howard County, Maryland does not. So be careful with, I'm going to use a virtual office to get a hub zone because blah, 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 blah. I understand the problem with leases. I've looked into leasing a space, and that's just because of an opportunity that I'm going to talk to Sheila about when we do our power call on tomorrow, on Thursday morning. But the contract calls for an office. And be careful of that too when you're bidding on stuff. They will tell you what their requirement is. And if you're not careful, because I almost missed that requirement in the one I was reading, because it was my first run through, so I hopped and skipped. But when I went back and did a thorough read through, it required me to have a physical office space in that, not a virtual office, but a physical office space. So just keep that in mind. I know we are small businesses, it can be a little taxing on the bank account initially to secure an office, but just be careful with the virtual offices and the position and everything that you're positioning. Now, if you want to get in touch with me, Luciana Turner, I have a group on Facebook called LT&A, Contracting Chatter. I post a lot of little tidbits and nuggets in there. You will have to answer some questions to gain admittance to the group. And you will see me post this repeatedly, and I post it for a reason because it annoys me when people do it. Follow directions. If you don't answer the questions, you're not getting admitted. Secondly, I have
And
a
there you
Facebook.
have what you would hear from a contracting officer. He just gave you what a contracting officer would say to you.
You don't follow directions. There's no need even talking. Uh, I also have a business page, LT&A Group, which is my consulting page. And then L Turner Associates is my government contracting shop. And I have a Facebook page for L Turner Associates as well. So you can reach out to me in either of those manners. On there, you can schedule a time to meet with me. I believe in 2018, I'm doing away with my free sessions, but I've replaced them with what I call clarity sessions, which are an hour long, and we get you clear on exactly what you do. Because I asked somebody one time, well, what are you selling to the government? And they gave me a list of NASCOs. I understand, but what are you selling to the government? And to me, and I hope if she's on the call, I'm not picking on you, but what it said to me is you need a little more clarity in language so that when you're talking to a procurement officer, you don't make that mistake.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what that said to me. But we've actually gone over time a little bit, and we've enjoyed. I hope everybody got value out of this conversation. And after the first of the year, if you're on my email list, I will email you the chatter schedule for 2018. Ty and I are going to be doing some partnering around nonprofit. I'm tackling budgets and she's tackling the rest of it. Sheila and I are planning some things for 2018, so you can come play with us all year and make money. Play with people that make you money. Don't play with people that keep you broke. and if you get nothing else from Luciana Turner, understand you've got to do the work. It's just, this is no other way to put it. You got to do the work. So for that being all, it's 2:40 Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to be respectful of everybody's time and bid you good day. I know we will hear from each and every last one of you, and we know 2018 is going to be profitable and a growth year for all. Have a blessed day.
Bye, ladies.